Alex Jones, operator of the InfoWars website.
Yeah.
I jammed out with Alex Jones.
From InfoWars.
From InfoWars.
Yeah.
Well, it's a guy named Alex Jones who I happen to find very entertaining. He's one of those guys who believes Bigfoot was responsible for 9/11. He believes everything.
And no one blows lid quite like host of InfoWars, Trump advisor, and alien Sasquatch love child, Alex P. Jones. So WikiLeaks, Alex Jones, and these subreddit subgeniuses, and I mean this in the nicest way possible, grow the up.
Right when I thought that the mainstream corporate media couldn't get any more deceptive or just flat out evil, they've gone to a whole new level. We saw incredible deceptions that were beyond anything I ever read about happening in Nazi Germany or Soviet Russia. I mean, I guess when America does something, it does it big. And when we go bad big. Our lapdog corporate media, the dinosaur media, the fake news media, has now come out and said they want to censor all other media they don't control. And they want to shut down Infowars.com, claiming we're liars. And to sell the end of a free press in America, where we only have government-approved, state-run corporate systems, they are now putting out vicious fake quotes in newspapers across the country that then get picked up by NPR and others. And then it is regurgitated back out by the newspapers again. And we're going to cover a few of those fake and edited quotes in just a moment. But please don't forget that 3 years ago in the NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, they bipartisanly, with Obama pushing it, lifted the ban on the CIA and other agencies engaging in domestic deception against the American people. This is incredible. Now, in 2016, they are passing legislation to fund hundreds of millions of dollars a year to actually plant government agents inside newspapers and TV networks to directly put out disinformation. So they're already going to the next level, and we're seeing it. This is such a sad day for our country. We're getting to the point where, if it's political news especially, you have to read it very, very carefully and then check all of it. And it just gets to where they taint themselves so bad, you can't believe anything they say about anybody else. Now, before I get into the latest attacks on InfoWars, I wanted to show you a couple of mainstream news articles where MSM, despite all their problems, got it right. The London Guardian and the Rolling Stone said, you want to create a blacklist? And the EU's actually pushing it. We're already being blacklisted on Reddit and on Facebook and other areas. They're not letting our links be shared. They said, you want to create that randomly with some nebulous list that comes out of the government with no proof? This is beyond what McCarthy did. Yeah, it's about 50 times worse. So here's the Rolling Stone. Matt Taibbi got it right. The Washington Post blacklist story is shameful and disgusting. Here's another one. The Hill. Mainstream media is the chief culprit behind fake news. They actually got it right. Here's another one. Stop worrying about fake news. What comes next will be much worse. And then The Guardian breaks down the fact that they're trying to have censorship and how dangerous it is. So these publications get it right. Not all of MSM is engaged in deception, but the Washington Post, the New York Times, CNN, MSNBC, they are the leaders of it. And they mentioned that blacklist news article that the Washington Post wrote. They've now retracted that and admitted no proof. They made up the source, the intelligence agency source, no proof that Russia was behind the Trump win. Zero. The American people being upset were behind that landslide win.
The epidemic of malicious fake news and false propaganda that flooded social media over the past year, it's now clear that so-called fake news can have real-world consequences.
Now let's just look at a couple of the fake news attacks on Trump in the last 2 days. CNN, MSNBC, they've all been caught doing it, with reports that the Fox Christmas party was at Trump Tower. And then people went and researched, and it was just completely made up. There was another story that Trump and his audience booed when he made the announcement that John Glenn had died. Then folks went and actually watched the video, He talks about how great John Glenn was, and the crowd went, oh. They didn't go, boo, John Glenn. Again, this is the over-the-top nature of incredible deceptions. But what they're really doing to Trump is what Amy Schumer got caught doing 3 weeks ago, and they have not retracted it, and other networks have since picked it up. She created, with her staff, a fake 1990s news article that looks like it's from the front page of a paper with yellow paper and cuts around the corners to make it look authentic. And there's a quote about how much he hates conservatives and his constituents and how dumb Fox News viewers are. Now, way later in the article about it, where she lists all these terrible things about Trump, most of it lies, she says, by the way, the above Trump quote isn't true, isn't real. But she knows most people won't read to the bottom. And think about this. She did this 3 weeks ago. When I talked about it, it got picked up in newspapers everywhere that it was indeed fake and outrageous. Over 8 million of my listeners that day watched it and listened to it when I broke it down. On YouTube, the video covering it has 500,000 views on one channel, 1 million on another. Despite the fact that she got caught lying in front of tens of millions of people, she doesn't care, and they're still reissuing the same article on a daily basis in different publications against Donald Trump. This is criminal defamation. She's trying to destroy him, trying to make his constituents think he's a betrayer when she is the betrayer of the public trust. The woman is an un-American, authoritarian, lying pig.
Okay, so everybody point to the people booing. Just point to, okay, so go.
Now let's move on to just one of the many lies this week that mainstream media is putting out against yours truly. And again, this is being done so they can attack the new independent press that is making them completely obsolete. They have to lie about us and call for all alternative media to be censored because they cannot compete with us. So now let's look at their latest attack on InfoWars and break down how the national talking point is put out by the Washington Post or the New York Times, and then how it's picked up by National Public Radio, and then local NPR stations, and then local newspapers. And they know they're putting out lies, but they package this so other publications can safely put it out and quote the Washington Post and then hope they don't get sued. Just like the Washington Post is now getting sued for claiming the entire alt-right are secretly Russian agents. That forced them to retract again just last week. Now, one of these attacks was in the Washington Post, and it was titled, Pizzagate, From Rumor to Hashtag to Gunfire in D.C. And they wrongly claimed that I broke the Pizzagate story and that I'm a big liar, and, so is WikiLeaks. And then later in the article, they have a quote taken from my radio show. But see, you can then take pieces of sentences, put them together in print, and it doesn't sound all edited because it is print. On radio and TV, it's incredibly obvious. And they have a quote here that if I do quote it again, they'll play on the radio and say I said. So I've got to be careful. In fact, I can't even read it here on air because they'll edit it. But after they claim that I say that Hillary is murdering and chopping up and raping children, they go on to admit later Jones eventually tied his comments about Clinton to U.S. policy in Syria. She's admittedly the founder of ISIS, hundreds of thousands dead Christians in Syria, tens of thousands dead in Libya. She came, she saw, they died. She's funding ISIS and Al-Qaeda that put little girls into sex slavery. In some cases, 100+ men will rape one little girl. If they don't submit, they pour battery acid on their faces. This is who Hillary's been caught running and organizing and controlling. And General Flynn and countless others have exposed it. It's come out in congressional hearings.
I mean, let's remember here, the people we are fighting today, we funded 20 years ago.
So I'm talking about her financing ISIS and Al-Qaeda and those war crimes, and saying so she's literally behind the death of children. They take that and plant it in a Pizzagate reported pedophile investigation story to make it look like I'm making baseless charges. Now, it gets a lot worse from there. They at least, so they won't get sued, admit later in the article, by the way, when he said that, it was about her backing ISIS, who did do all that Everybody knows they did. So then it goes from the Washington Post to National Public Radio, who doesn't tell you that I was talking about the Middle East. They only quote the part about her being behind the murder and chopping up of children. Then it gets picked up by shows like the Texas Standard locally. Then it gets picked up by Newsweek, by the Daily Beast, and by countless other publications. And even the Washington Times picks it up and doesn't even attribute where it comes from so people can go find out the truth. They don't even call me to get a quote. They just say, Alex Jones is fake news. Well, ladies and gentlemen, whether you think we're fake news or not, with our incredible track record of breaking national, international news, the point is, all news can be seen as propaganda from someone else's perspective. And if they can take us down, they can take everybody down. And just 2 weeks ago, they were calling for banning, in the Washington Post and other publications, Donald Trump, our elected president, from being able to communicate on Twitter, saying he posts fake news and he's evil and he's hateful and he's a bully. This is when people are bullying him. We have the steel union head in Indianapolis coming out and complaining that Trump didn't save all of the 1,400 jobs at Carrier. He only saved 1,100. Trump tweets, boy, you're ingrateful. No wonder you lost those jobs. You didn't even care to try to keep them. What's wrong with you? And they put out headlines saying, Donald Trump's going to get somebody killed. So if he responds back with free speech saying you're wrong, they imply that someone's going to go after this union head and that somehow Trump's violent. It's the same thing they're pushing in these other articles, saying I'm going to get somebody killed. Look, I'm not Bill Clinton on the Lolita Express with Jerry Epstein, the convicted pedophile's plane, going to a pedophile island that's on record. I'm not the one on the WikiLeaks talking about supplying kids for adults for their enjoyment and entertainment in hot tubs and $65,000 of hot dogs for Obama, which the police say is code word for male prostitutes. I don't know what all this stuff means. But law enforcement's concerned. We've reported on the investigations, and they're desperate to hide this. So you're seeing 21st century information warfare. We use the truth. We use being honorable to try to counter them. They use lies, and they are pulling out all the stops. And I thought you'd want to know what they were up to. And I thought that President-elect Trump would want to know what they're up to, because they're trying to ban myself, Trump, and everybody else off the web. You know, the Washington Times, in closing, made jokes and said, Jones claims there's a move to ban, fake news. But he is fake news. Ha ha ha. And he says Hillary's chopping up kids. Ha ha ha. When the EU is saying ban news, we're being blocked on Facebook sharing our links. We're being blocked on Reddit. It's all over the news. Other sites are being blocked. Breitbart's been kicked off of their Apple free app area. I mean, there's massive censorship already taking place. And yes, I'm getting petitions to Trump and petitions to Congress and others and saying we need to stand up against this. This is dangerous. We don't need to shut down mainstream media because of their lies. We need to simply stop reading them and they'll collapse on their own. Their problem is we're exploding and growing. That's why they're hitting the panic button and trying to shut us off, because we're having a huge effect. Keep spreading the word. Keep supporting the broadcast. Keep spreading the links and videos and reports, because you are the real power. You are the sleeping giant, and you're the reason they're so upset. As we get ready to go into 2017, now more than ever, humanity is on the march, the globalist corporate empire is on the run, and it's time to redouble our efforts. So for myself, the entire crew, I want to wish all of you an amazing holiday, Christmas coming up, and I want to thank you all for your support and defense of this republic. You truly are modern Paul Revere's. My My fellow InfoWarriors, I am very excited to be able to announce to you the introduction at InfoWarsLife.com of a new way to save time and money when you stock up on InfoWars Life formulations like Survival Shield X2 and Super Male Vitality. Just go to InfoWarsLife.com today, select your favorite product, click on Auto Ship before adding to cart, and choose how often you want us to send you another order. Every time you choose Auto Ship at InfoWarsLife.com, you get 10% off, and you won't have to worry about running out and having to reorder next time. And of course, you can cancel with one click anytime. As you know, I'm all about the idea of a 360 win, and the new auto ship feature at InfoWarsLife.com is a sure win for everybody. A win for liberty, a win for health, and a win when it comes to big savings. Visit InfoWarsLife.com today and save 10% on your next InfoWars Life order by selecting auto ship at checkout. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.